The concept of, if you're not with me, then you're against me. So if anyone who is not Muslim, then he is to be against me. No, the Prophet used to have friends who are non-Muslims. He used to have a neighbor who was non-Muslim. He used to treat the people of the book in the most respectful manners. We need to differentiate between someone who is killing you and between someone who is your neighbor who says, I'm with you, I'm sharing with you that perspective. And the same thing we expect from those right-wing conservatives, whatever, who are calling to put all Muslims in one place and just make one judgment on them. You cannot put all Muslims on the same level and make a judgment on them. I'm just going to go fast. Abuse in family, failure to be responsible on a personal level, holding people at high expectations. You know, you have to be this level of piety or you're not a good Muslim. Arrogance, personal benefits. Like, you know, there is a person who's in the business of attacking Muslims. An article was written about him in Tennessee, saying, like, the beginning of the guy was very interesting. I'm not here to mention names, but the article read the following. They said, this person had 3,940 some reasons to attack Islam because that's how much he made money last year in his business attacking Islam. There are some people just surviving on the attack on Islam. On the other side, there are Muslims also collecting funds and getting recognition and power and all that, and just attacking the non-Muslims. So it's happening on both sides. Solutions through understanding of Islam, legitimate sources of knowledge. Please do not just go to Imam Google and ask him a question and have the answer back. You know, Sheikh Google is not the real source for you to get your answers. You need to ask people who have the knowledge, whom you trust that they will represent the faith. Major undistributed areas versus minor open areas for points of view. I will disagree with someone on issues that, for example, some people like music. It's not a major issue in Islam. It is not like if you believe music is not prohibited, you're outside Islam or you are an untrue believer. There are disputes about this issue from the time of the Prophet himself, peace be upon him. Is it something only to him or to the other Sahaba? So if it is not among the basics, the origins, the important issue of Islam, I don't need to bring hate and friendship based on this issue. Of course, I'm not saying, you know, it's okay for the music that have all these bad words and bad, no, that's, I agree, it's prohibited. But I cannot tell someone watching, you know, Barney with some music there that he's going to go to hell because he's listening to music. And even those people who say it's prohibited, like, do you watch news? Yeah, well, okay. Whatever, you know, the beginning of the news is music. So what are you going to do about that? The importance of the term haram. It's very easy for me to say, no, haram, it's prohibited. Like, they don't want to explain to people. If you don't have a text in the Quran or the Sunnah that says it's haram, you cannot say haram. Period. You don't have the right to say haram to anything, only that Allah had said it, haram. Even scholars, if there is a new issue that has not been mentioned before and they disagree with it, they say it's preferable, not makruh, you know. But he will not rise to the term of haram as God has said haram to that. This is a topic of preventive measures. You know, well, I can't let you drive my daughter who turned 18. Why? Well, because, you know, you might get stuck on the highway and you are a female and someone might come and give you a ride and attack you and rape you, so no, you're not going to get your license. So under this preventive measures mentality, many of things that has not been said haram in Islam are being cancelled as an option for people to engage from an Islamic perspective. And the topic's too great to discuss, but I'll have to go fast. Understanding the five, this is another huge issue. I don't have time to run it. Solution number 2, the community role, the family role, the schools, religious leaders, governments and nations. Most of these areas where all these terrorists are coming from, it's a retaliation against the aggression against them. They are being tortured, they are being imprisoned, they are being deprived from their own rights. Of course they're going to retaliate back. I'm not saying that the retaliation is approved or it's legitimate. No, it's wrong, but we need to help them really step out from that terrorist act by dealing the cause, not just the effect of it. Response to disasters, when people are left alone. If there was a flood here or a disaster there, and people say that they have been neglected and not paid attention to. I mean, I went to Katrina and I served there for 2 weeks with the Red Cross as a chaplain. And you could see that people, how desperate and how much complaint and what type of words were coming out, like, where's the government? Listen, people, when they are left alone and neglected, they would have all kinds of ideas in their mind. On a personal level, people have to be fair, open, mercy, and caring. I mean, we're just going to go. The concept of, I will finish with this Islam spread by the sword, a reference to extremism. Does Islam promote extremism in that perspective? Of any organized attempt to force the acceptance of Islam on the non-Muslim population, or of any systematic persecution intended to stamp out the Christian religion, we hear nothing. Had the caliphs chosen to adopt either course of action, they might have swept away Christianity as easily as Ferdinand and Isabella drove Islam out of Spain, or Louis the 14th made Protestantism. This is written by Christian missionary T.W. Arnold from his book, The Preaching of Islam, a History of the Propagation of the Muslim Faith. Islam was never spread by the sword. If that was the case, how can you explain we have more than 50 million Christians living among Muslims up till now? Jews were protected by Muslims from Albania to Morocco. During the Ferdinand Isabella massacres, it was not just against the Muslims in Spain, it was also against anyone who was not sharing with them the same religion. Wars in Islam are not holy. There is no term in Islam called holy war. There is no such term. As a matter of fact, it's not a Muslim term. In Islam, wars are either just or unjust. That's the way we see war. The Quran permits only a just war, a war waged to remove tyranny and oppression or in self-defense. The Quran is categorical in denouncing all wars of aggression. I don't need to stop on that. I will give you those 10 minutes if you have any questions, please. Well, very good. Any questions? No? It's either that you guys made it very perfect, understood everything I said, which is great, or you guys understood everything I said, which is also great. Okay. No questions? It doesn't have to relate to the topic we spoke about today. It could be if you have anything you would like to learn. Yes, sir.
Well, you spoke that Islam has no concept of like monasticism and just kind of seeking seclusion. Is there any concept of that in any like degree to like just kind of seclusion?
Sure. This is where the topic of Sufism comes in. Sufi people felt that they focused on the spiritual side on the Prophet's life. And yet, if you remember what I said, he was the role model. He really demonstrated a very high level of spirituality. So they wanted to implement that on the mainstream, which is not practical.